Hello, Midnights. We hope you enjoy our stories. Next, the Bermuda Triangle. Let us know where you are listening from, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. The Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle, is a loosely defined region in the western part of the North Atlantic Ocean where a number of aircraft and ships are said to have disappeared under mysterious circumstances. While popular culture often attributes these disappearances to paranormal or extraterrestrial activity, scientific explanations generally point to environmental factors and human error. The mystery surrounding these incidents isn't just about a high number of disappearances, it's about the nature of those disappearances and the imaginative theories that have arisen to fill the void of definitive answers. While scientific explanations address many aspects, the persistent allure of the unknown is what truly fuels the legend. Estimates vary, but popular accounts claim that more than 50 ships and 20 airplanes are said to have mysteriously vanished in the Bermuda Triangle over the past century and a half, often with the loss of over 1,000 lives. These figures are frequently cited in books and documentaries to underscore the region's supposed unique danger. Some more sensational claims push these numbers much higher, sometimes into the hundreds of vessels and thousands of lives lost, though such figures typically lack verifiable sources and often include incidents far outside the triangle's generally accepted boundaries or with clear conventional explanations. However, official sources, such as the U.S. Coast Guard and the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, consistently maintain that there is no evidence to suggest that mysterious disappearances occur with any greater frequency in the Bermuda Triangle than in any other large, well-traveled area of the ocean. They emphasize that the proportion of incidents to the sheer volume of traffic is not unusual. There is no official or universally agreed-upon boundary for the Bermuda Triangle. The most commonly cited vertices are Bermuda, a British island territory in the North Atlantic, giving the region its name, Miami, Florida, a major city on the southeastern coast of the United States, and San Juan, Puerto Rico, a Caribbean island, a U.S. territory. Some expanded definitions might include points as far east as the Azores or as far south as the Caribbean islands, effectively encompassing a truly vast expanse of ocean. This extensive triangular area, covering approximately 1.3 million to 3.9 million square kilometers, encompasses a highly trafficked shipping lane used by vessels traveling between the Americas, Europe, and the Caribbean. Its warm waters are also a popular destination for private yachts, cruise ships, and pleasure craft, contributing to the high volume of traffic. The lack of precise boundaries itself contributes to the elasticity of the myth, allowing various incidents to be incorporated or excluded as needed to fit the narrative. The concept of the Bermuda Triangle as a mysterious area gained traction in the mid-20th century, though sporadic reports of unusual incidents in the region predate this period, often shrouded in folklore and maritime superstitions. Long before the term Bermuda Triangle was coined, sailors traversing these waters had whispered tales of strange occurrences. Christopher Columbus's journals, though often misinterpreted or exaggerated, contain entries from his first voyage across the Atlantic in 1492, where he reportedly observed a large flame of fire falling into the sea and later, a distant peculiar light, possibly a meteor or distant bonfires from indigenous populations. He also noted anomalous compass readings, a phenomenon now understood as magnetic declination, the natural variation between true north and magnetic north. Columbus, unfamiliar with this phenomenon, found it perplexing, but it was a predictable deviation, not a sudden erratic fluctuation unique to the region. At the time of Columbus, maps were rudimentary. Celestial navigation was the primary method, and accurate timekeeping for longitude was still centuries away with the invention of the chronometer, making long-distance navigation inherently challenging and prone to error. Over subsequent centuries, the inherent dangers of the sea, sudden severe storms, uncharted reefs, shifting sandbars, and the ever-present threat of piracy, undoubtedly led to many disappearances in this busy shipping lane, contributing to an underlying sense of dread about the region. The isolated nature of maritime travel also meant that many disappearances simply went unrecorded or without detailed investigation, fostering an environment where speculation could flourish. The period following World War II saw a dramatic increase in both commercial and military air and sea traffic globally, and particularly through this active Atlantic corridor. This post-war aviation and maritime boom, coupled with improved communication though still primitive by today's standards, relying heavily on high-frequency radio with Limited range and rudimentary search capabilities meant that disappearances, when they did occur, became more noticeable and drew greater public and media attention. The sheer scale of the incidents, particularly military losses like Flight 19, began to attract significant public scrutiny. This era saw a significant rise in reports of inexplicable vanishings, a contrast to earlier periods where such losses might have gone unrecorded or attributed simply to the perils of the sea. The increased traffic naturally led to an increased number of incidents, which, without a fully developed scientific understanding or sophisticated investigative tools, could easily be perceived as mysterious. The first mainstream popularization of the mystery began in the 1950s. Edward Van Winkle Jones, writing for the Miami Herald in 1950, detailed a number of disappearances in the region, referring to it as the Devil's Sea. This was one of the earliest media attempts to connect multiple incidents into a cohesive, ominous narrative. In 1952, George X. Sand published Sea Mystery at Our Back Door in Fate magazine, describing the loss of Flight 19 and other vessels, further drawing public attention to the phenomenon. Vincent Gaddis is widely credited with coining the now famous term Bermuda Triangle in his 1964 Argosy magazine article, The Deadly Bermuda Triangle. His articles selectively compiled numerous incidents, presenting them as evidence of an ongoing, unexplainable pattern, and meticulously laid out the distinctive geographical points, while highlighting the common narrative elements of sudden disappearance without trace. The legend truly exploded into global consciousness with Charles Berlitz's 1974 bestseller, The Bermuda Triangle. Berlitz, a linguist and author known for his interest in paranormal phenomena, meticulously, though often uncritically, recounted numerous alleged disappearances, frequently omitting inconvenient facts, misrepresenting official reports, or adding speculative details to enhance the mystery. He heavily emphasized the unexplained aspects and proposed various supernatural theories, including alien abduction, time warps, and lost Atlantean technology. Berlitz's book, despite being widely criticized for factual inaccuracies and a blatant lack of scientific rigor by investigative journalists like Larry Couchet, captured the public imagination, became an international bestseller, transforming the regional curiosity into an international sensation and firmly embedding the mystery into popular culture. The legend of the Bermuda Triangle is built upon a series of specific incidents, many of which are frequently recounted and sensationalized, forming the bedrock of its mysterious reputation. While dozens of cases are cited, some stand out for their dramatic nature or the lasting questions they posed due to initial lack of information or later sensationalism. The USS Cyclops, a massive U.S. Navy collier transporting manganese ore, departed from Barbados on March 4, 1918, with 306 crew members and passengers. It was never seen again after that date, failing to reach its destination in Baltimore. No distress signal was sent, and despite extensive searches spanning months, no wreckage or bodies were ever found. Its disappearance remains the single largest non-combat loss of life in U.S. Navy history, and is one of the earliest and most frequently cited incidents associated with the Triangle's mystery. The sheer size of the ship and the number of lives lost contribute significantly to its enduring enigma. Later investigations, though inconclusive, pointed towards plausible conventional explanations. The ship had known mechanical issues. A single, often troublesome engine was reportedly overloaded and was potentially caught in an unusually severe storm, leading to structural failure or a sudden capsize. There were also concerns about the manganese cargo shifting in rough seas, further destabilizing the vessel. Despite these logical theories, the complete lack of trace remains a powerful element of its lore. Perhaps the most famous and pivotal incident is Flight 19, which occurred on December 5, 1945. 5 U.S. Navy TBM Avenger torpedo bombers departed from Naval Air Station Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a routine navigation training flight. After about 90 minutes, the flight leader, Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor, reported his compasses malfunctioning and that he was disoriented, repeatedly stating, "I don't know where we are. We must have got lost after that last turn." He believed he was over the Gulf of Mexico instead of the Atlantic, an error that placed him far off course. Subsequent radio transmissions, monitored by various ground stations and other aircraft, indicated extreme confusion and disarray among the pilots, with Taylor refusing to turn west towards land despite clear instructions from ground control. This highlights classic cases of pilot error and spatial disorientation, a common aviation hazard where pilots lose awareness of their aircraft's position, altitude, or attitude relative to the Earth, especially in featureless environments like the open ocean or in failing light. Despite ground control's desperate attempts to guide them, the flight seemed unable to determine its position, and communications deteriorated, indicating a profound loss of spatial awareness and possible navigational equipment failure, possibly exacerbated by the failing light of dusk and poor visibility over the water. The last retransmissions were heard around 7:04 p.m., suggesting the aircraft likely ditched at sea as fuel ran out. To compound the tragedy, a PBM Mariner seaplane, a search and rescue aircraft dispatched to find Flight 19, also disappeared with 13 crew members. The Mariner, known as a flying gas tank due to its design, its wings contained large, poorly ventilated fuel tanks, had a history of explosive fuel vapors due to design flaws. This led to strong speculation that it likely exploded in mid-air, a theory supported by a report from a tanker crew who witnessed a mid-air explosion and observed a large oil slick at the time of its disappearance. Still, no wreckage was ever definitively found for either Flight 19 or the Mariner, primarily due to the vastness and depth of the Atlantic and the difficulty of searching for debris in the conditions prevailing at the time. The official Navy report initially attributed the loss of Flight 19 to pilot error due to disorientation, but later changed it to causes or reasons unknown. At Taylor's family's request, a detail that further fueled the mystery significantly, giving rise to claims of a true enigma. The disappearances of the Star Tiger on January 30, 1948, and Star Ariel on January 17, 1949, further cemented the region's mysterious reputation. These two British South American Airways Avro Tudor passenger planes vanished within a year of each other while flying routes that pass through the Bermuda Triangle. The Star Tiger, en route from Santa Maria in the Azores to Bermuda, with 31 passengers and crew, was making good time until it simply disappeared. No distress signal was received, and despite a massive search, no trace was ever found. Weather was a factor, with strong headwinds causing delays and forcing the aircraft to fly at a lower, less efficient altitude, increasing fuel consumption, but not considered severe enough to explain the complete disappearance. The British investigation, led by Lord Macmillan, found no conclusive cause, stating the disappearance was one of the unsolved mysteries of air navigation, a phrase that further stoked the legend. Less than a year later, the Star Ariel, flying from Bermuda to Kingston, Jamaica, with 20 passengers and crew, similarly vanished without a trace, again sending no distress signal. The weather conditions were reported as excellent, making the disappearance even more perplexing to the public. The inquiry found no evidence of explosion, fire, or structural failure. The eerie similarity of these two high-profile disappearances, both sophisticated aircraft for their time, particularly given the lack of distress calls, suggests a sudden and catastrophic event, perhaps even an explosion. Subsequent analysis of the Tudor aircraft type revealed it was prone to design flaws, including issues with its heating system which could lead to smoke in the cockpit and other mechanical problems, providing a more prosaic explanation for their sudden demise. For the Star Tiger, a strong possibility was fuel exhaustion compounded by unforecast headwinds and pilot error in calculating fuel reserves. The SS Marine Sulphur Queen, a 524-foot tanker laden with molten sulfur, departed Beaumont, Texas, en route to Norfolk, Virginia, with 39 crew members on February 4, 1963. It was last heard from on that day and disappeared without a trace. An extensive search found no wreckage, oil slicks, or lifeboats. The vessel itself had a questionable safety record, having previously experienced a fire, multiple mechanical breakdowns, and structural issues. It was operating under a waiver from standard safety regulations and was known for its poor maintenance. Its design for carrying highly corrosive molten sulfur in unpressurized tanks also made it inherently risky, as the liquid sulfur could expand and contract, putting immense stress on the hull, especially in rough seas. Naval investigators concluded that the ship was unseaworthy and likely broke apart at sea due to structural failure in heavy weather, possibly exacerbated by internal corrosion and unstable cargo. The complete lack of debris has kept its disappearance a staple of Bermuda Triangle lore, with theories of instantaneous sinking, perhaps due to rogue waves or methane release persisting, despite strong evidence of its unseaworthiness, and the possibility that debris quickly sank due to the density of the cargo or was widely dispersed by currents. Other notable incidents include a C-54 Skymaster on June 9, 1950, a U.S. Air Force plane carrying 40 passengers and crew, which disappeared en route from Anchorage, Alaska to Miami, Florida, after a stopover in the Triangle. Despite ideal weather conditions, the plane vanished without a trace, its last reported position placing it within the Triangle, adding to the growing list of inexplicable aerial disappearances. Also, 2 U.S. Air Force KC-135 Stratotankers on August 28, 1963, collided mid-air about 300 miles east of Bermuda during a routine training flight. While the collision explained the immediate event, what perplexed investigators and fueled the mystery was that while wreckage from one plane was found relatively quickly, the debris from the second plane seemingly vanished entirely after initial radar contact with it. Some speculate that the second plane's debris was somehow swept away by strong ocean currents, or was collected as part of a secret military operation though. The lack of a full recovery of the second set of wreckage added another layer of intrigue, often cited as another example of the Triangle swallowing evidence. In reality, retrieving all wreckage from a mid-air collision over the open ocean is an immense logistical challenge, and parts can sink or drift away very quickly. These incidents, and many others, form the backbone of the Bermuda Triangle legend. The details of their disappearances, often involving an abrupt cessation of communication and a frustrating lack of physical evidence, are consistently highlighted by proponents of the mystery, even when official investigations provide plausible, if not always satisfying, conventional explanations. It's also worth noting that the famous ghost ship Mary Celeste, found abandoned in 1872, is often mistakenly associated with the Bermuda Triangle. However, it was discovered off the Azores, thousands of miles away, though it perfectly illustrates the type of eerie maritime mystery that fuels such legends. The enduring appeal lies in the human desire for extraordinary explanations when faced with inexplicable events. Despite the sensational claims, most disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle can be attributed to conventional explanations, supported by oceanographic, meteorological, and aviation science. The fact that the vast majority of transits through this busy region are entirely uneventful strongly supports conventional explanations. The environmental factors are paramount. The region is prone to unpredictable and extreme weather. This includes hurricanes and tropical storms that develop rapidly, sometimes within hours, generating winds exceeding 200 km/h and waves over 30 minutes. Such conditions can overwhelm even large modern vessels and aircraft. The sudden formation and intense localized nature of these storms can catch ships and planes off guard, especially in eras before advanced satellite tracking and real-time weather forecasting. Even outside hurricane season, the warm, moist air over the Atlantic frequently gives rise to intense thunderstorms and squall lines, characterized by sudden strong winds, heavy rain, and waterspouts, which are rotating columns of air and spray. These can be strong enough to easily capsize small vessels, cause significant structural damage to larger ships, or severely disrupt aircraft, leading to crashes. Furthermore, rogue waves, also known as freak waves, are unusually large and spontaneous ocean surface waves that can be 2 or 3 times the size of surrounding waves. They are often unpredictable and can appear without warning even in relatively calm seas, presenting a wall of water capable of swamping or breaking apart large ships instantly. The immense depth of the Atlantic in this region may contribute to conditions conducive to their formation, particularly when strong currents interact with specific seabed topography. Another significant environmental factor is strong ocean currents. The Gulf Stream, a powerful, fast-moving warm ocean current originating in the Gulf of Mexico, flows northward through the Bermuda Triangle at speeds of up to 2.5 ms. Any wreckage or debris from a downed aircraft or sunken ship would be rapidly dispersed and carried far from the actual crash site by these strong currents, making search and recovery efforts extremely challenging and often fruitless. This rapid dispersion readily explains the common observation of no trace being found, making investigations exceedingly difficult. The dispersal could be so wide that debris is simply never found or identified. The presence of deep oceanic trenches also contributes to the mystery. The Atlantic Ocean floor within and near the Bermuda Triangle is home to some of the deepest underwater features globally. The Puerto Rico Trench, for instance, plunges to approximately 8,376 m, making it the deepest point in the Atlantic. Should a vessel or aircraft sink in such an area, It would descend to immense, crushing depths where light cannot penetrate and pressure is extreme, over 800 atmospheres at the deepest points. Recovering wreckage from such depths was virtually impossible with the technology available during the peak of the Triangle's mysterious disappearances, mid-20th century. Even with today's advanced remotely operated vehicles and autonomous underwater vehicles, it remains an enormous, time-consuming, and costly challenge, often likened to finding a needle in a haystack in complete darkness. The sheer scale of the search area, combined with these depths, makes comprehensive recovery efforts logistically and financially prohibitive for every incident. While popular theories often cite magnetic anomalies as a cause of compass malfunction, scientific consensus contradicts this. Terrestrial magnetism varies naturally across the globe. This variation of magnetic declination is well charted and accounted for by navigators who apply corrections to their compass readings to align with true north. The Bermuda Triangle does not exhibit any unique or significant magnetic anomalies that would explain navigational failures beyond what standard navigation practices can handle. Any compass issues reported are more likely due to instrument malfunction, human error in applying corrections, or the disorienting effects of severe weather on personnel. Disorientation during turbulence or low visibility can lead to pilots misreading instruments or panicking, further compounding navigational errors. As the U.S. Coast Guard has stated, regarding the Bermuda Triangle, the sea has always been a mysterious place to humans. A number of disappearances can be attributed to the unique environmental features of the area, compounded by human error. A more scientifically plausible hypothesis for the sudden sinking of ships is methane hydrate eruptions, often dubbed the burp theory or methane gun hypothesis. Large, stable deposits of methane hydrate, also known as methane clathrate, a crystalline solid of water and methane gas, are known to exist beneath the ocean floor, particularly along continental shelves and slopes, including parts of the Atlantic. If these deposits are destabilized, for example, by seismic activity, underwater landslides, or changes in ocean temperature pressure, they can rapidly decompose, releasing vast quantities of methane gas that bubble violently to the surface. Water mixed with a high volume of gas becomes significantly less dense, reducing its buoyancy. An object caught directly above such an erupting gas plume would suddenly lose virtually all support from the water, causing it to sink almost instantaneously, without time to send a distress signal. While less direct, a massive release of methane into the atmosphere could potentially affect aircraft. Methane is less dense than air and could rise quickly. A sudden high concentration of methane in the atmosphere could lead to engine flameouts due to lack of oxygen or a fuel-air mixture imbalance. For older piston engine aircraft, or even create an explosive atmosphere, though this atmospheric scenario is less commonly cited and harder to prove. While laboratory experiments have demonstrated the principle of methane-induced sinking, direct evidence of such large-scale eruptions causing specific Bermuda Triangle disappearances is lacking, and the precise conditions for such a large-scale eruption are extremely rare. Human error is widely considered the most significant contributing factor to maritime and aviation incidents globally, and the Bermuda Triangle is no exception. Factors include pilot, navigator error, where miscalculations, poor judgment, or spatial disorientation, a common aviation hazard where pilots lose awareness of their aircraft's position, altitude, or attitude relative to the Earth, especially in featureless environments like the open ocean or in poor visibility, or when transitioning from visual flight to instrument flight, can lead to uncontrolled flight into the sea or going off course. Incorrectly reading instruments, failing to account for magnetic declination, or making calculation errors are common causes. Fatigue and stress from long flights or voyages, coupled with challenging conditions, can impair judgment and reaction times, leading to critical mistakes. Sometimes, inexperience or overconfidence can lead individuals to push limits or make poor decisions, particularly in the days before standardized training and stricter regulations were universally applied. Beyond human factors, mechanical failure is a constant risk in any complex machinery. Engine failure, due to mechanical defects, fuel contamination, or fuel exhaustion, often due to miscalculation or navigation errors, is a primary cause of aircraft and vessel loss. Structural failure is also a risk, as older ships and aircraft, particularly those not designed for the stresses of prolonged exposure to severe weather or heavy seas, can suffer catastrophic structural failures. The SS Marine Sulphur Queen is a prime example where structural integrity was suspected. Instrument malfunction beyond supposed magnetic anomalies can simply occur due to manufacturing defects, wear and tear, or environmental factors like moisture or icing. Furthermore, in the mid-20th century, lack of survival gear and training was a critical issue. Survival equipment and emergency training were not as advanced or standardized as they are today. Many craft may not have carried adequate life rafts, emergency beacons, or have had crews trained in proper ditching or abandonment procedures, significantly reducing the chances of survival and detection after an incident. The limited range and reliability of radio communication, especially high-frequency radio in early aviation, meant that distress calls might not have been heard or accurately pinpointed due to atmospheric conditions, static, or simply being out of range, further contributing to the no-trace aspect. Modern air traffic control and maritime communication systems have greatly reduced the chances of aircraft or large vessels simply vanishing without a last known position or distress signal. Finally, statistical anomalies are largely debunked. The most fundamental rational explanation is often overlooked. The Bermuda Triangle is an incredibly busy area. It lies on a major shipping lane connecting North America with Europe and the Caribbean, and it's a popular air route. Roughly 100,000 vessels transit the region annually, and countless aircraft fly over it, making it one of the most heavily trafficked areas in the world for maritime and aerial transport. With millions of people, thousands of ships, and countless flights traversing this region annually, a certain number of accidents and disappearances are statistically inevitable, even without any mysterious forces at play. Critics of the mystery, such as researcher Larry Couchet, meticulously demonstrated that when compared to other equally busy maritime and air corridors worldwide, the rate of incidents in the Bermuda Triangle is not statistically higher. His comprehensive research, detailed in the Bermuda Triangle Mystery, Solved, systematically debunked many of the famous cases by examining original reports and finding logical explanations, often due to severe storms or human error, and sometimes even discovering that the incidents never occurred as claimed or were outside the triangle's boundaries. Lloyd's of London, a major insurance market, has explicitly stated they do not recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a particularly hazardous area and do not charge higher premiums for passage through it, a strong indicator that the insurance industry, which bases its rates on risk assessment, does not view it as uniquely dangerous. The mystery has largely been fueled by authors who cherry-pick incidents, ignore rational explanations, and omit crucial details, presenting isolated incidents as part of a larger, inexplicable pattern. Many disappearances attributed to the Triangle actually occurred outside its accepted boundaries, were later found to have perfectly logical explanations, or were simply never fully investigated due to their minor nature or lack of resources at the time. The media's tendency to sensationalize adds to the myth's longevity. The mystery of the Bermuda Triangle is amplified by several recurring and often exaggerated elements in the stories that circulate, which tap into deep-seated human fears and fascinations. Perhaps the most compelling aspect is sudden and complete vanishments with no trace. Reports often claim that ships and aircraft simply dropped off radar or out of sight, sometimes in seemingly calm weather, without issuing a distress call or leaving behind any wreckage. This suggests an instantaneous and overwhelming event, leaving no time for communication or survival, which is far more dramatic than a slow sinking or crash. The total absence of debris, oil slicks, or even life rafts is frequently highlighted, implying that whatever happened was so complete that nothing was left behind, a fact that defies conventional understanding of accidents. This no-trace aspect is central to the mystery's allure. Another intriguing element involves erratic instrument readings. Accounts from some surviving pilots, or those who had near misses in the Triangle, frequently describe compasses spinning wildly, altimeters malfunctioning, and other critical instruments providing nonsensical readings. This isn't just a simple mechanical failure. It implies an external, disruptive force interfering with complex electronics and navigation systems, further fueling theories of magnetic anomalies, energy fields, or even alien technology. The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard consistently dismiss these claims, emphasizing that any compass variations are due to well-understood geomagnetic phenomena, which navigators are trained to compensate for. They highlight that such reports of instrument anomalies often occur during severe weather, where turbulence and disorientation can easily lead to perceived malfunctions or human misinterpretation of instruments, especially in stressful situations. The tales of ghost ships and abandoned vessels also contribute heavily to the mystique. While less common than complete disappearances, the idea of ships found adrift within the triangle, perfectly intact but completely deserted, is chilling. A crew vanishing from a seaworthy vessel without a struggle, leaving meals on tables or lights burning, suggests something beyond human agency. Though the famous case of the Mary Celeste occurred outside the Bermuda Triangle, it perfectly illustrates this type of eerie maritime mystery and is often erroneously associated with it. One lesser-known but intriguing case is the Ellen Austin, an American schooner that allegedly encountered another derelict ship in 1881. The Ellen Austin's captain reportedly put a prize crew on the abandoned vessel, only for the derelict ship and its new crew to vanish and reappear, sometimes with the new crew gone. While the historical details are sparse, inconsistent, and likely embellished over time, possibly combining multiple less dramatic incidents, such stories contribute to the popular image of the triangle's eerie and baffling nature, suggesting crews were taken by unknown forces. Some historical accounts, notably a contested entry in Christopher Columbus's log from 1492, mention strange lights and atmospheric phenomena in the region. Modern variations include reports of electronic fog or inexplicable luminous phenomena, adding a supernatural or alien dimension to the narrative. Pilots and sailors have occasionally described encountering unusual, fast-moving clouds or luminous objects that seem to interfere with their craft. The mystery also deepens because many of the disappeared involved experienced crews and seaworthy vessels. This makes simple human error or ordinary mechanical failure seem less probable to proponents of the mystery, suggesting a force that can overcome even the most competent and prepared. For instance, the disappearance of the Piper PA-23 Comanche, carrying a family in 1978, flown by a seasoned pilot with over 20 years of experience, is often cited. Despite extensive searches, no trace of the aircraft or its occupants was ever found, contributing to the idea that even proficient individuals are vulnerable to the triangle's purported effects. However, even experienced pilots and mariners can make critical errors, particularly when faced with unexpected and rapidly deteriorating conditions, or when equipment malfunctions. Complacency can also play a role, even for experienced personnel. To explain these perplexing elements, a rich tapestry of theories, ranging from the pseudo-scientific to the purely fantastical, has emerged, reflecting humanity's endless capacity for imagination when confronted with the unknown. One of the most enduring and popular esoteric theories posits that the lost city of Atlantis and its crystal power lies submerged beneath the Bermuda Triangle. Proponents suggest that powerful energy crystals or advanced Atlantean technology, perhaps malfunctioning or still active, emit energy fields that disrupt navigational equipment, create temporal distortions, or even tear holes in the fabric of space-time, causing objects to disappear. The Bimini Road, a natural rock formation off Bimini, characterized by remarkably straight and rectangular stone blocks, is often cited as a remnant of this lost city or a submerged port, reinforcing this idea, despite overwhelming geological consensus that it is a natural formation of beach rock. For many, the unexplainable nature of the disappearances points to extraterrestrial activity. This theory suggests that extraterrestrial beings have an underwater base in the area and are either collecting human and technological specimens for study, or that the strange lights reported are alien spacecraft. The complete lack of debris in many cases supports the idea of objects being taken or transported away, rather than sinking or crashing conventionally. Stories often include accounts of sudden, blinding lights, unexplained aerial phenomena observed by other pilots or mariners in the vicinity of disappearances, or unusual radar contacts that vanish with impossible speed. This theory gained significant traction during the Cold War era's heightened interest in UFOs. The theory of time warps, vortices, and dimensional portals suggests that the Bermuda Triangle is a place where localized distortions in space and time occur, acting as gateways to other dimensions or points in time. Pilots like Bruce Gernon have famously claimed to encounter an electronic fog or a strange tunnel of light during flights through the area, reporting compasses spinning wildly, altimeters malfunctioning, and their plane jumping hundreds of miles in minutes, seemingly bypassing significant distances. These anecdotal accounts often describe a feeling of disorientation, the temporary disappearance of stars, or a sensation of speeding up or slowing down. Such experiences fuel the idea of temporary entry into another dimension, or a time anomaly that literally transports vessels or aircraft out of our reality, explaining why no wreckage is found in our dimension. These theories often reference the notion of a vortex of energy that swallows up ships and planes. While conventional science acknowledges minor magnetic variations that navigators account for, the mystery lore often implies localized, powerful magnetic anomalies that are not charted or understood. These fields are believed to not just affect compasses, but to interfere with entire electrical systems, cause aircraft to fall from the sky, or even disorient humans to the point of madness, leading them to make fatal errors. Less common in modern discussions, but harkening back to ancient maritime fears, some theories involve sea monsters and mythical creatures like the Kraken or other unknown leviathans capable of dragging ships to the depths without a trace. A more contemporary theory suggests that the U.S. government, or another powerful entity, maintains a highly secret government conspiracy and secret bases in the area, particularly during the Cold War era. Disappearances are then attributed to either accidental collateral damage from classified experiments or deliberate cover-ups to maintain the secrecy of their operations, explaining the lack of recovered wreckage. These theories often point to the heavy military presence in the region during the 20th century as circumstantial evidence. The enduring popularity of the Bermuda Triangle myth speaks to several human psychological tendencies and cognitive biases. We have an awe of the unknown. Humans are naturally fascinated by mysteries, and the idea of an unexplained, powerful force at work is often more compelling and emotionally resonant than mundane explanations like weather or mechanical failure. There's also confirmation bias at play. Once a person believes in the Bermuda Triangle phenomenon, they are more likely to seek out and remember information that supports this belief, while actively dismissing or rationalizing away contradictory evidence or conventional explanations. The narrative power of stories about vanishing ships and planes creates dramatic, vivid, and easily shareable accounts that are far more engaging than dry meteorological reports or mechanical fault analyses, contributing directly to the legend's longevity and widespread appeal. The fear of the ocean is primal and deeply ingrained in human consciousness. Its vastness, depth, and inherent unpredictability inherently inspire a sense of awe, vulnerability, and fear. The Bermuda Triangle capitalizes on this, attributing a malevolent, almost sentient nature to an already formidable environment. Finally, cultural reinforcement from countless books, documentaries, movies, television shows, and even casual conversations continues to reinforce the Bermuda Triangle as a genuine enigma, making it difficult for many to accept rational explanations, even when presented with compelling evidence. This phenomenon is also linked to apophenia, the tendency to see meaningful patterns or connections in random or meaningless data, leading individuals to link unrelated incidents into a grand, mysterious narrative, overlooking the high volume of normal, uneventful transits through the area. The short-term implication of this enduring mystery is the continued public fascination, sometimes leading to sensationalized media coverage and even misallocation of search resources if belief in paranormal causes is strong. For tourism, it can paradoxically create a niche market for mystery seekers and thrill seekers who are drawn to the allure of danger, while potentially deterring others who are genuinely fearful. In the long term, the Bermuda Triangle serves as a powerful cultural cautionary tale about the sea's inherent dangers, but it also stands as a significant case study in how myths are perpetuated and become entrenched in collective consciousness, despite overwhelming scientific evidence to the contrary. Its persistence, despite rigorous debunking, highlights the profound power of narrative over fact in human perception, and the enduring human desire for extraordinary explanations for ordinary though tragic events. The predominant scientific view attributes disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle to conventional factors, a thesis that faces several common counterarguments. Critics often argue that the sheer number and unique nature of incidents, particularly the no-trace aspect and alleged instrument malfunctions, cannot be fully accounted for by such mundane explanations. One common counterargument centers on the no-trace phenomenon. Critics ask that if these were merely conventional accidents, caused by storms, mechanical failure, or human error, why is there so often no wreckage, no oil slicks, no debris, or even distress calls? The complete vanishing of large ships and aircraft, sometimes without a whisper, suggests something more profound than a normal sinking or crash. A typical maritime or aviation accident, even in severe weather, should leave some discernible evidence. However, the absence of a trace, while dramatic, doesn't automatically imply a supernatural cause. The extreme depths of the ocean in this region, notably the Puerto Rico Trench, make recovery incredibly difficult, if not impossible, even with today's advanced technology. Objects that sink to such crushing pressures like 800 atmospheres or more are often not merely lost, but effectively pulverized or scattered beyond recognition. Furthermore, the powerful Gulf Stream and other strong rapid ocean currents can rapidly disperse and carry away any floating debris far from the accident site, making search efforts futile and widely spreading any potential clues. For aircraft, the high-speed impact with water can shatter them into very small pieces that quickly sink, particularly if the craft is largely metal. In many historical cases, search and rescue technology and communication systems were rudimentary. Distress calls might have been made but not received due to atmospheric conditions, equipment failure, or the suddenness of the event. For example, a rapid capsize or an instantaneous mid-air explosion, as is theorized for the PBM Mariner sent to search for Flight 19. The absence of a trace, therefore, often points to the challenging and unforgiving environment, coupled with the limitations of historical recovery capabilities, rather than an otherworldly force. Another point of contention arises from the instrument malfunction argument, where numerous consistent accounts from pilots and mariners report compasses spinning wildly, electrical systems failing, and navigational instruments behaving erratically precisely within the triangle. This suggests a unique, localized force actively disrupting technology, beyond normal magnetic declination or mere mechanical faults. These are not isolated incidents, but a recurring, unsettling theme that conventional science fails to adequately address. Yet, while erratic instrument readings are a deeply ingrained staple of the Bermuda Triangle myth, conventional explanations for such phenomena are robust and scientifically supported. Magnetic declination, the natural difference between true north and magnetic north, is indeed significant in this region, and if navigators fail to properly account for it, a human error in calculation or application, it can lead to confusion and perceived malfunctions. Beyond that, severe weather conditions, intense thunderstorms, strong winds, and turbulence can cause severe disorientation for pilots and crews, leading them to misinterpret instrument readings or genuinely believe instruments are malfunctioning when their own perceptions are skewed. Power outages, short circuits, or system failures can also occur due to mechanical defects, aging wiring, or environmental factors like lightning strikes, just as they can anywhere else in the world, often with instantaneous effect. There is no verifiable scientific evidence of unique or anomalous electromagnetic fields in the Bermuda Triangle that would cause these widespread and inexplicable disruptions beyond what is normal for a busy, often stormy, ocean region. Many such reports are anecdotal, lack independent verification, and are often exaggerated or distorted over time through retelling. Critics also contend that many of the disappeared vessels and aircraft involved experienced crews and seaworthy vessels. Such trained professionals, they argue, are highly unlikely to make fundamental errors or succumb to conditions that ordinary vessels and aircraft routinely survive. This, they argue, points to an overwhelming, external force beyond the capabilities of even the most competent individuals to manage. However, it's important to clarify that attributing incidents solely to human error is not an indictment of competence, but a realistic recognition of the inherent fallibility of human beings, even highly trained and experienced ones, especially when operating under extreme duress or when facing unexpected, rapidly unfolding circumstances. Human error isn't limited to gross negligence or incompetence. It encompasses a broad spectrum of factors including misjudgment, for example, underestimating weather severity, miscalculation, for example, fuel consumption rates against unexpected headwinds, spatial disorientation, a well-documented and dangerous phenomenon in aviation where pilots lose their sense of orientation, fatigue, or the inability to react perfectly and instantly to a sudden, catastrophic event that occurs without warning. Lieutenant Taylor of Flight 19, despite his experience, was clearly disoriented and made a series of critical navigational errors that led his flight into deeper trouble. Even the most experienced individuals can succumb to conditions like vertigo, sudden unforecast weather phenomena, like microbursts or severe waterspouts, or unexpected mechanical failures that overwhelm their ability to react correctly in a stressful life-or-death situation. Furthermore, mechanical failures, while outside human control, often require critical human responses, and a delay or incorrect response can turn a manageable issue into a disaster. My argument is that these disappearances, when thoroughly investigated with all available historical and environmental information, even if limited, often reveal plausible links to known hazards and human factors, rather than necessitating a leap to the supernatural or extraordinary. Finally, critics maintain that despite claims from official sources, the high number of incidents constitutes a statistical anomaly compared to other regions of similar size and traffic density. It's not just a busy area, they argue. It's a dangerous busy area, and dismissing the numbers is simply avoiding the truth. This is arguably the weakest counterargument from a scientific perspective, as it often relies on a misinterpretation of statistics. As highlighted, the Bermuda Triangle encompasses one of the most heavily trafficked regions in the world for both maritime and air transport. When you account for the sheer volume of air and sea traffic over many decades, potentially hundreds of thousands of individual journeys annually, the number of incidents, tragic as they are, is not statistically disproportionate to other equally busy areas with similar environmental hazards, like the Pacific Typhoon Belt or other major shipping lanes prone to severe weather and frequent storms. Lloyd's of London, a major global insurance market, and the U.S. Coast Guard, both entities deeply concerned with maritime safety and objective risk assessment, do not view the region as unusually dangerous and do not charge higher premiums for passage through it. The high number often relies on cherry-picking incidents, including those with known conventional explanations, those that occurred far outside the triangle's generally accepted boundaries, or those that are entirely unverified or based on unreliable accounts. Researcher Larry Cushie's extensive work, detailed in the Bermuda Triangle Mystery, Solved, systematically debunked many of the famous cases by rigorously examining original reports, often finding logical explanations or discovering that the incidents were misrepresented. The perception of a statistical anomaly is more a product of sensationalized media and selective memory than objective data analysis. The perception and interpretation of the Bermuda Triangle phenomenon are heavily influenced by cultural background, exposure to information, and underlying belief systems. This diversity of views helps explain the myth's widespread and enduring nature across the globe. Individuals from a Western modern scientific background, such as trained scientists, pilots, navigators, engineers, and maritime safety experts, would predominantly lean heavily on empirical evidence, statistical analysis, and conventional explanations rooted in meteorology, oceanography, naval architecture, aviation mechanics, and human factors. They would demand verifiable data and adherence to rigorous scientific methodology, inherently skeptical of paranormal claims, viewing them as pre-scientific speculation or unprovable hypotheses. For them, the persistence of the myth might be seen as a failure of widespread scientific literacy, or conversely, a powerful testament to human storytelling and the universal allure of the dramatic. They would emphasize the known, quantifiable dangers of the sea and air. In contrast, individuals with a strong belief in the paranormal supernatural, including some spiritualists, New Age followers, conspiracy theorists, and proponents of fringe science, would readily embrace theories involving alien abduction, time warps, Atlantean energy crystals, or other non-conventional explanations. For them, the lack of definitive conventional evidence for every disappearance is not a refutation, but often perceived as proof of a powerful, undetectable force or a deliberate cover-up by authorities. The mystery itself is central to their fascination, and the inability of mainstream science to prove a conventional explanation for every nuanced detail fuels their belief in the extraordinary. They might interpret rare or unusual atmospheric or oceanic phenomena as concrete signs of these deeper, hidden forces at play, often drawing on spiritual or cosmic interpretations. Within maritime fishing communities, both historically and presently, particularly those with long traditions in oceanfaring, sailors and fishermen often possess a pragmatic yet deeply respectful view of the ocean's power. While they might have their own local superstitions, tales of bad luck, or haunted stretches of sea, they would primarily attribute disappearances to the very real and immediate dangers of the sea: sudden violent storms, unpredictable rogue waves, powerful shifting currents, mechanical failures under duress, and the inherent risks of human judgment in a harsh, unforgiving environment. They might share tales of strange experiences or unusual phenomena, but would generally ground these narratives in the raw, unpredictable power of nature rather than alien interference, possessing a deep, almost instinctual, respect for the ocean's ability to swallow anything without a trace, understanding its vastness and indifference. Furthermore, for indigenous cultures from coastal regions, such as certain Caribbean islanders or those with Afro-Caribbean traditions, depending on specific traditions, and historical narratives, some might possess ancient legends of powerful sea spirits, mythical creatures like sea monsters or giant serpents, or sacred cursed waters. These stories might predate the Bermuda Triangle concept but could be reinterpreted and assimilated into the modern narrative of mysterious disappearances, blending contemporary incidents with ancestral folklore. For example, some might attribute disappearances to the wrath of a sea deity or a spiritual imbalance caused by human actions. This perspective often views the natural world as interconnected with the spiritual, where events are less about random chance and more about an unseen order or influence. Lastly, media consumers or the general public, influenced by sensationalized documentaries, popular books, and pervasive online content, often hold a fascination with the Bermuda Triangle that transcends strict belief. Many might intellectually acknowledge the plausibility of conventional explanations, but still prefer the mystery narrative because it is inherently more exciting, dramatic, and emotionally resonant than dry scientific analysis. For a significant portion, it's simply a fun, intriguing mystery to ponder and discuss, rather than a deeply held, unshakable belief, highlighting the entertainment value and escapism that such legends provide. This group often represents a spectrum of belief, from outright conviction to amused skepticism.